Welcome to the Monday Club. I'm Paul McConville, and this morning I'm joined by Andy Waters, Cahair O'Kane and Kenny Archer, who are, I'd say, fresh from Croke Park, but guys don't look very fresh. It was a long,
fresh.
It was a long day.
Fresher than the Mayo players, I'd say.
We're fresh on the Mayo supporters.
I don't think you'll see a Mayo supporter for a good week. They'll have their own Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday club, Thursday.
Indeed.
Happy days in Mayo indeed.
Andy said he wanted to do a Tuesday club.
Yeah, let's do it.
Wednesday.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenny has
Very
literally
short.
hot-footed it from Croke Park. You still have your wristband on, Kenny. Your press.
Well,
your press.
Jesus.
I did. I know. I kept this because, honestly, I will take it off, but,
I would hope so at some point.
Yeah.
I might get this on eBay. But
Okay.
there was, it was an I was
not
there
happened.
situation yesterday, as we'll discuss. So, yeah.
Condition used.
Yeah.
Like
Well, it's if
pretty-
you get Andy Moran to sign it, you could probably
I can
you could
manage
get
that,
four
yeah.
figures or something for it,
I think you get 40p for it at the minute there.
It's a very disconcerting colour of, was it orange and white there? So
It's got the date on it
It's,
as well.
I would say, vermilion.
all right,
I
okay.
threw mine in the bin this morning. I didn't think
Vermilion?
they'd selling it.
Vermilion. I
Hot pink.
think I saw them. I think I saw them at Glastonbury.
Aye.
If it is orange and white, Kenny, just
It's not orange and
it's
white.
right. Okay.
It's faded red and white.
Sorry, just ruined my little segue there, Kenny, because
Sort
I
of
think
like t-shirt
I think
wee bit.
if we look at the Mayo win, obviously first All-Ireland final win in 75 years. We know. Kenny, you covered the 1951.
I did. And I didn't. I missed that one. I was sick.
Yeah, but a lot of comparisons actually being made with the 2002 final, Armagh's sort of first breakthrough win in terms of a team that hadn't won it. Well, it hadn't won it ever, but it hadn't won it in a long time. They were playing Kerry. There was a ferocious work rate, in the Mayo team as it was with Armagh that day. I mean, having covered many All Ireland finals for the Irish News over the years, how did yesterday compare with any of those?
It was amazing. It was one of the best ever. Arguably the best ever occasion. The game was very good itself, but for something that didn't involve an Ulster team, we were all still so engaged and, let's be honest, willing Mayo to win it. At one stage I may have done a fist pump or two in those final moments, and then I felt really bad because I turned around and I saw the Kerry guy who had sat next to at the Kerry Tyrone game, who a great fella, and him and another Kerry man both looking very, very glum. So I sort of turned around again to face the pitch, a bit shamefaced, but went back then grinning and happily because Mayo had won.
Yeah, it's an odd quirk of statistics that nobody's lost more All-Ireland finals than Kerry, but simply because of the fact that they're in so many.
Yeah.
But I mean, and they wanted to win that game as much as Mayo did.
Yeah.
But Cahair, we'll dig down into the sort of nitty gritty of the game, the tactical nuances in a wee while, but for the sheer emotion, and in your piece in the paper today, you sort of, referenced that, just the sheer outpouring of emotion that was for a county like Mayo. I mean, being there, you referenced it was a privilege to be there, and as journalists, we're always very sort of dispassionate and, kind of have to be very kind of neutral with these things. But how did it feel to be there on that occasion?
The GA is 142 years old, and if it lives another 142 years, I don't know if it'll ever see a day like that ever again. It was phenomenal. It was absolutely unbelievable to be there, and the last 4 minutes of the game and the 45 minutes after it were just like sort of an out of body experience. They were. I haven't been as many finals probably as some of you boys, but I remember the noise at the Armagh Galway game 2 years ago, and I thought the noise in the last few moments of that game would you'd struggle to beat it, but yesterday was on a different plane altogether, and I think it meant so much to Mayo, but also to the country and to the sport as well. It was like. I heard Aidan O'Shea saying this morning, he quoted Rory McIlroy, like, what will we talk about next year?
Yeah.
And it's true, because everybody has kind of been invested in the Mayo journey now for almost 37 years, since 89, and that has been going on and losing the 11 finals and the manner in which they lost some of them It was, it became the never-ending story, and then it ended, and like, I think, like in any situation, you don't know how people respond, you don't know how they'll react, you don't know how they'll, when it actually happens, you don't know what people will do, and I think for those 45 minutes after the game, I think Mayo people just made the absolute most of letting every minute of those 75 years out of their souls. Like, it was the noise, crowd rolling down out of the stands was just phenomenal.
And it's so different now, Andy. We look at those breakthrough wins for Armagh and Tyrone in 02 and 03, maybe at a time when people were on the pitch in Croke Park, and obviously that's different now. People are remaining in the stands, but it's how those people kind of, express that joy, without not being able to get on the pitch, or without being able to kind of, meet the players and things like that. But in 02, like, from an Armagh perspective in 02, that was such a breakthrough win for them. And people, as Cahair says, probably people didn't know what to do then either. Like,
Yes, well, drink a lot. I suppose. But
That's just what you did, Andy.
Oh well, me and a few others. But I would say yes. I can see where you come from. The comparison. But even from an Armagh viewpoint, like they hadn't been sort of battering at the door like Mayo have. I mean, coming so close and being denied and then coming back the following year and then even when 2021 when they were well beaten by a Tyrone side that that really they expected to beat. To have sort of slipped off the stage for a few years and come back against like a Kerry side, obviously that we're defending champions, and nobody give. I mean, I was at the semi-final press conference when the hammered Louth basically, and Andy Moran asked everybody in it, like, right, hands up, who has Kerry or who fancies Mayo to win the All-Ireland, and I do wish to God I had a public but I know obviously nobody did, so I mean to do it like they did was amazing, and I just feel like quite lighter this morning, like there's just a feel good factor.
Yeah, there's a great.
Over.
Like a couple of months ago, it was dubbed as the most wide open championship in years. But then at one stage, it looked like Kerry are gonna be the default champions again, which is sort of scuppers all that. And the Mayo Live semi-final was was put on a par with the Tailteann Cup final. Is this the sort of, these are the also rans, Yeah. And I suppose all that, like, I mean, that's absolute gold dust for a manager though, to be able to kind of feed that into your team and say, you're kind of, you've been written off, etc., etc.
I genuinely didn't understand why people were saying that Kerry were going to run away with it. And with all that, I'm not going to say anything other than I expected Kerry to win, but maybe narrowly. But Mayo put in a phenomenal performance in that semi-final, and Louth are a very good team. So it was, part of that was, snobbery of who are Louth. And let's not forget, again, I wrote, and I stand by it, that I think Kerry deserved to beat Tyrone, but there were some dubious decisions in that match. And Kerry absolutely rode their luck against a Dublin team in transition. Yeah. Definitely controversial decisions in that semi-final. So Kerry weren't coming into this flying, and Mayo had been very good, so good in that semi-final. But yeah, having said all that, still expected Kerry to do it, just with the experience that they have of the big occasion.
And the player and the teams that played against, the Dublin, Armagh, Donegal, that come through some tough games. But I suppose if you flip that on its head and say, and a lot of people were saying, Mayo are coming in a wee bit undercooked. They haven't really played a top team yet. They haven't played a Division 1. But I suppose at certain parts of it yesterday, did Kerry look a bit leggy? Did it, or did those injuries sort of start to catch up on them a wee bit? Was that and Mayo looked a wee bit lighter, a wee bit more kind of, unburdened by all that pressure, or what?
Aye, well, look, I think Kerry definitely looked tired. But I put that down to more the way Mayo played and the way that Mayo made them tired. Like, they just absolutely exhausted Kerry yesterday.
Well, that's the point, because Kerry started really well and they didn't look tired.
No, that's and then they were out on some of the Kerry players were out on their feet, and they made, the areas even they made the changes was telling. The first couple of changes was taking out Thomas Sullivan, taking out Paul Murphy. Now, Thomas Sullivan didn't have a deadly first half, but I thought Paul Murphy did a wide lot of good work, breaking the line. But my God, every time he tried to come out,
Really
it
tired
was
out,
hard work. And like every yard he took, he earned, trying to break that press, and that was relentless, and it was exhausting for them. And I just think that it's a testament in the sense of you can think you're prepared for it, but because nobody else really plays that way, I don't think there was any way Kerry could have been like fully prepared for the tsunami that was coming to meet them in terms of Mayo's pressure on the ball, because it was just relentless from start to finish, and tone set by Ryan O'Donoghue. Like, I just thought, oh my God, absolutely possessed by a demon yesterday. Is running on the goal. I mean, when you look at where he picks the ball up, and you think he's heading back towards his own goal, you're thinking, don't cut back in there and go down the sideline, because if you do that, you're in trouble here. You're surrounded, you have no way out. And that's exactly what he did. He turned back in, he went down the sideline, and he would just went past four of them, straight through four of them. And it was just pure heart and desire, and just kept, you could physically see his legs pumping, as if
Nothing stopping me here.
Absolutely relentless. And McBrien, who had just intercepted what was potentially going to be a goal for Kerry, he had cut the hand pass out. He followed him. He went with him. He was the man who made the run over the top. And it was that moment, that 20 seconds or 30 seconds of football just summed up everything that won, in the footballing sense, everything that won Mayo the All-Ireland. They exhausted Kerry.
And even before that run, he had made one on the other side, and you could see closer to the goals, you could see how you could just tell I'm going through you guys here, and that's the way that Mayo played yesterday. That it didn't work out for him in that first run, but they were just relentless going at them the whole time. But it was with such positivity.
It was that third quarter. Was that just directly after the half time that happened? They got that early point in the second half. They got the goal. A complete contrast to the first 15 minutes. And Cahair, as you referenced before in Saturday's paper in the 12 things, Mayo have conceded a goal in seven of their last 8 finals. They conceded the first goal. In 6 of those, it's been inside 15 minutes. Make that 7 yesterday, because I think the goal was like 14 minutes and 40 seconds. So David Clifford, and how many times have we seen David Clifford just with that extra bounce, that extra hop, just to get past the man? And I suppose, what was it, 7 points at that stage? So
they went 7 up.
They went 7 at that stage, and it's like, well, that's that's lights out now. Like, where do Mayo go from here? But I suppose the thing about it is, with a lot of the younger guys, maybe we'll touch on them in a little bit, but Kobe McDonald and Dara Byrne, they're unburdened by that baggage. Those guys. You talk about the finals in '96 and '97. Those guys, even the early noughties, when they were just kids, like, they probably don't even remember that. Yeah.
So what was Kobe born in 2008? Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's 18. Is
18,
it?
Coming 19, yeah.
19.
But when you think about it, like, they're unburdened by that baggage. They're unburdened by, Kobe especially. We're thinking this is his debut year in his swan song, all in one. He's trying to cram an entire inter-county career into a matter of months. And I think that showed in Dara Byrne especially. Those guys were just like, you're 18, but you might never be back in an All-Ireland final, so you might as well just make the most of it. Like.
What really struck me from earlier in the season about Dara Byrne, and we might talk again a bit more about him later, but just was his composure on and off the pitch. He did a post-match interview, I think, because I did the Monaghan League game and the Championship game, so I might be mixing up, but I think it was a Championship game, and he was just in and so relaxed about everything. And it's the same the way he took that goal. He just made it look easy, and it wasn't necessarily in that occasion, but I mean, that whole spell was the moment, really, because Mayo had just gone ahead, if I'm right, with Kobe's 45 for the first time in the match, and then the goal puts them 4 up. And that was a moment where you start to believe, my God, they could do this.
I must say, when he scored the sideline in the first half,
free,
I actually thought if they're going over, because obviously Mayo, they needed, you need to be scoring those, but it was a very difficult free. Well, once he put that over, I thought, hang on a minute, like
that brought him into the game. He'd been quiet up until that point. He'd actually been turned over a couple of times over along the side, and it felt like there was a wee bit of nervousness there. And Andy Moran did reference, like, the first 15 minutes, got away from us big time. Like wasn't what we planned, wasn't to be 7 points down, and it was the fear. And it was, you're talking about the goal going in and Clifford's goal, and I think everybody in Ireland for a minute just went, not again, not again.
There was a journalist from Armagh beside me yesterday then, and I'll not name him, but let's just say he sounds like Mile McCoy.
I think process of elimination we could probably get there. It wasn't Andy anyway.
He continued the grand tradition of Armagh reporters used to be, maybe because they're beaten down, but unlike Andy. But
Beating down.
Beaten down. Aye, well, they always did that,
With
obviously.
a small D.
No, beaten down.
Okay.
But they're always
D.
very negative, even in the years when Armagh were going well. Armagh reporters, I used to say, God, man, would you lighten up? But he continued that grand tradition of negativity, and he was just like, aye, this is over, And then in the second half, whenever Kerry started reeling Mayo in for a spell, and it felt longer to me. I looked back at the notes and I thought that I had initially written that Mayo had gone 15 minutes without a score, but it was 10 minutes, but it felt longer, and I'm sure it felt very long for Mayo. And during that, he was like, there's only going to be one winner here.
Yeah.
I wasn't disagreeing with him either, really. And you just had that sense of, oh God, this is going to happen. Kerry are going to do this.
But yeah, because we've seen this movie before, and then everybody's like, but and Mayo had that possession in the first 15 minutes. They sort of wasted a few chances, they overcooked it, or the snapped at shots and things like that. And that's nerves understandable. It's natural for people, Cahair, to especially pundits and journalists, to think that, well, we're only going by the evidence that we've seen before. But what was it in Mayo that you?
Well, you're talking about them snapping at you. I felt that from day one it was very, very clear that their policy was about twos.
Yeah.
Which I'd sort of said last week that I thought that's what they'd go after, that they would go for a lot of 2-point shots. But I wasn't probably expecting to take as many into the hill in the first half.
Into the wind.
But yeah, and into the wind. Look, for me, not a lot of that game was won, but the whole dynamic of that game flipped on the coin toss. The Mayo won it and chose to play into it. I just felt that they had to do that, and that, once the 15 minutes went the way they did, then you're looking at it and you're thinking, right, okay, maybe it was wrong, but I still don't think it would ever have been wrong. I still think it was what they had to do, and it was a sign that they actually had intention to win the game, not come here and be competitive and let's try and get ahead of them in the first half and see can we hang on. I thought that was such a sign of their belief that they were actually like, this is how we're going to win this All-Ireland final. We are going to win it by doing the hard bit first. And then we'll have Tommy, and they sprang Tommy Conroy maybe a wee bit earlier than expected, and that was an impact as well, because what that did was it made Kerry change their matchups. Kerry had been pretty comfortable up to that point in some of them, and it made Foley go across to Conroy, and it just changed everything a wee bit. It freed Ryan O'Donoghue up in a big way because Foley had gone to him. So that, and I think it was less about what Paul Towey was doing. I just think that probably Andy Moran recognised that Kerry were on top of 2 or 3 of the individual battles, and by putting Conroy in there, that would switch the battles, and that Mayo might get more joy out of it, and that's exactly what did.
Yeah, as you
happen.
said, Conroy was always going to be the change, but it came a bit earlier than expected. Did it put Kerry on their back foot a wee bit? Did it? I mean, but if you looked at it, was it 1-5 to not 1-5
to a point, yeah.
And then to get to a point at half time, I mean, that's
level
and then a point. Yeah,
and Joe O'Connor's point.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose we'll touch on it now anyway. It's just as good a time as any, because Andy Moran, it was Jack O'Connor's 9th All-Ireland final, was Andy Moran's first. And when Jack O'Connor last won in All-Ireland last year, Andy Moran wasn't even the Mayo manager. He was appointed in August. So he's 11 months in the job, or less than a year in the job, and he's got an All-Ireland. Kobe McDonald didn't come into the team until January. Jack Livingston, the goalkeeper, didn't play until I think it was the Monaghan game in the championship.
Yep.
So it's a case of like the funny thing is about you have players like Aidan O'Shea and Killian O'Connor and those guys who've been plugging away for Mayo for years and years and years, and then you have a whole new management, and you have players in key positions who've been on the team a matter of months, and they've got an All-Ireland. I mean, it's fun. It's sort of hard to get your head around now when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose, looking back, Mickey Hart, didn't he win an All-Ireland his first season as Joe Kernan, I suppose? We're talking about that out too, but then
Yeah.
that was his second spell as manager. I suppose, obviously, Andy Moran did very well bringing Paddy Tally in. Vast experience there, and obviously he deserves a mention. That was his third All-Ireland. He won one as a player with Tyrone.
Coach with Tyrone in 03,
Yes,
and then with Kerry.
With Kerry, and it was got to an All-Ireland final with Down 2010, Sigerson Cup. Obviously Down manager. Vast experience there. Colin Boyle, another sort of Mayo legend. So yeah, Andy, obviously he went in there having had, was it 2 seasons with Gabriel Bonnigan and Monaghan? It could have been one,
year,
maybe.
yeah.
And he has picked the team up there. Expectations were low. He was explaining there yesterday at the press conference that they went to New York and they went to London to sort of like gee up the sort of Mayo diaspora and sort of get them back behind the team, and sort of create this, what do you call it, like a green and red wave, which obviously swept them to success.
I mean, he had a spell in Leitrim too, which is probably forgettable but I mean, it's all a learning curve for a young manager. But Cahair, I mean, there's no coincidence that whenever guys are putting coaching tickets together, Paddy Tally is a sort of a name that goes on the top of everybody's list. Why is it that he's so sought after, and what it is that he brings to a setup?
It's funny because when Kerry won the All-Ireland 22, he was credited for a lot of how they defended that year, and Ty Morley playing as +1, and he would have had a big hand in that. But for me, even when St Mary's won the Sigerson, and they were sort of seen as this really kind of robotic, functional outfit, but what a lot of teams look for from Paddy Tally is actually the transition side of it, like the moving the ball from back to front. And look, you could see wee bits, but you could also see a huge amount of Andy Moran in that performance yesterday, even in terms of sucking Kerry in to come back out again. Was a template that he used in Monaghan last year, and was something that they've got. Like, I just thought that there was times Tommy Conroy was taking on Jason Foley for no other reason than to draw the Kerry defence closer to their own goal. He was literally driving at the net, stopping, turning, come back out, and by the time it came back out, there was an extra 10 yards of space around the arc where they could get shots off. So there were signs that game plan was there as well. But you can just imagine playing for Andy Moran. Sippy said it here last week, like that the energy, the ball of energy that he is, that how that would have translated into the dressing room. But I have to say, like, and I said it here about Limerick last week as well, it is one thing going to a game like that and being all energy. Let's just chase them, and let's just make their life hard and all the rest of it. And there is a bit of that, but the quality of the coaching and the way that they pressed Kerry yesterday, like that does not happen by saying to fellas just go out and chase them there. Like, I put up a clip last night that had sort of taken of the press that ended up in the sideline ball towards the end of the first half, and it was, you can see the first thing is O'Donoghue calls them up, and then he tells Dara Byrne, switch now, and then Kobe tells O'Donoghue, we switch now, and Kobe, and they all do, they know their roles in the press, they know exactly what it is they're doing, and the next thing Mike Breen's on the sideline and has been forced out over it, and it's it's more than just let's go out and chase it and run about headlessly, and because that's, I don't know, that's probably a wee bit of what happened to Mayo in Noddy's finals. But I have to say, I was speaking to Colin Boyle just briefly before he got on the bus yesterday evening, and just saying even that I think that their team, the team he played on, got thrown in a bucket and characterised by stuff that had gone before them. So between 89 and between sort of 2010, they lost finals in manners where they shouldn't have lost them, and they did collapse and they did have blowouts and stuff. But the team that he played on never had those. They took that Dublin team and talk about the reaction to the goal yesterday. Like, that team that Andy Moran and Colin Boyle and Keith Higgins played on, they absorbed some body blows from that Dublin team in big games. They conceded 2 own goals and they came back and got the draw, and they recovered from these things so often. And I think that what happened yesterday was actually pretty typical of what Mayo are and have become over the last 15 years, but because they hadn't won one, it was everything from 89 to 25 was all the same thing, and it never was. And just look, I just thought at 1-5 to a point down, we are thinking, oh no, you know, we are. Everybody's thinking it, and it's happened again. And Jack Carney got the big 2-pointer, and then Ryan O'Donoghue got the next 2-pointer, and that Ryan O'Donoghue 2-pointer was the moment the whole game flipped, and Tommy Conroy came on the dead ball when the ball went dead, and then they set up the press and they turned the kick out over, and in those 30 seconds, the whole game came alive. And I did say to a few people in at half time, it is happening here. Like, Mayo are going to win this. They are going to win it because
We're going. He's been tipping Mayo for years.
Because all of the things they were doing, they'd done all of the bits against the wind in the first half, and they were doing the right things. The press was so well set up. They were having their 2-point shots. They were creating chances. They were dominating. They were at least breaking even in the middle of the field. Like, Kerry's kick out has been their source of scores all year. They only got 7 points off it yesterday. So like, all of the platforms were built. It was just a case of carrying it.
It was
to the
almost
line.
like the worst thing that could have happened to them had already happened to them in terms of the
Absolutely.
and then they've got over that. And is there a chance that Andy Moran maybe said to them, look, this could happen at some stage. There could be a point at which you're 5-6 points down.
Yeah,
this could happen. Be prepared.
He did say that David Clifford's going to get a goal here at some stage.
Yeah.
You know, that's what he does, isn't it? He will break us down. He will. So they're going to have a purple patch, of course they are, and we've got to be prepared for that and
come out the other end of it. Like,
I just done that the unfair characterization of the previous Mayo team. Like, I remember, I think it was after the 2020 final, which they did deserve to lose to Dublin and strange times and all that. But I remember writing a column and I was quite cross, almost on behalf of Mayo, and I know maybe Cahair did and others. I know other people wrote them, and there was this time, and we know where a lot of it came from. But there was, you know, Mayo were being labelled chokers and losers, and it was so ridiculous. Like, we know, like, they're a very small pick. You know, it's not a big population there. So what Mayo did, even to get to so many All-Ireland finals, was remarkable and admirable. But you look at 2013 final, Cillian O'Connor had a late free, put it over the bar, and then probably should have gone for goal. They lose it narrowly. I need to just check back because I get confusion. But the 2016 final was the replay. Dublin were awful, and they got 2 own goals that helped them get a draw, and the replay was a point. There was a semi-final against Kerry down in Limerick. You know, crazy scenes and stuff going on there. And then the 2017 final, and Donny Vaughan stupidly got himself sent off, and even that, Cillian hit the post with a late free, and Dublin go up the other end in injury time and get a winner. Like, Mayo were a brilliant team. Dublin were arguably the greatest team of all time.
And if they'd won one or two, but if Mayo win one or two of those finals, nobody's complaining. They're probably saying, you know, we're the best team that year. They deserve to win it. I mean, it was funny watching a bit on RTE yesterday, because Lee Keegan obviously is one of the pundits on RTE. He has been all year, and you know, after you reference the 2017 final, everybody remembers, you know, that Dean Rock's about to take the free and he fires the GP. It's just that sheer, if anybody personified the sheer exasperation of those Mayo teams, it was Lee Keegan, because he was the guy, you know, scored goals in All-Ireland finals, brought them to almost single-handedly in some occasions, brought them through games, and yet it just still wasn't enough. And he was.
I genuinely, I loved that. I thought it was brilliant. You know, that desire to do anything you can do for your team.
Totally, yeah.
And you think
I thought it was
can't do anything on a free except stand there and wave your arms.
And you
didn't throw it at Dean Rock.
He lobbed it.
He could have thrown it. He could have hit him with it.
It was more a case of like.
Are you saying he should have done more, Andy? He should have pelted it at him.
Was he just trying to get his?
He could have thrown his boots on him.
He was trying to get his KMs, his kilometres up a wee bit there, was he?
I don't know if he needed to. Like,
you know, the S&C coach has them all
as well.
But Keegan, he was basically kidnapped by the Mayo team yesterday from the wee pundit
from his booth.
From his booth, yeah.
And
we just took them away. I mean, like, and Peter Canavan said it on. He said, like, he's the man who's gone as close as anybody to win an All-Ireland with Mayo without winning it, like, you know, so like hats off to them. And it reminded me, actually, funny to go back to Armagh, for some reason I was watching the BBC coverage of the 2002 final a couple of years ago. It must have been before the 24, I think. And
Masochist.
I know, yeah. Just research, just professionalism. Jarlath Burns was in the studio then for BBC, and it wasn't one of these sideline studios. It was up in a wee booth thing, and obviously Armagh beat Kerry, and they'd gone to him at half time, and then they'd gone to him and then it was just basically, Jarlath disappeared. He took off the mic and he just went down on. And he just thought, the hell with this thing, going to celebrate.
I actually remember that.
And
happening.
yeah,
Was it John Remember John Robert? He played for him. He was on the sideline as well, and they were trying to get him, and he was in the middle of it.
That was basically what Lee Keegan was like yesterday. They were taking him over to the hill.
And isn't that brilliant?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, isn't
fantastic,
that, you know,
Well,
like,
somebody
that's what you want.
Was it Kobe was being interviewed, or one of the players? And I think Lee Keegan was like, go off and join the celebrations.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how it should be.
But he looked like Aidan O'Shea and Killian O'Connor and Moran and Colin Boyle, who said, like, played with all those guys, plugged away for so many years. And I suppose it's a bittersweet because, you know, he's only about a year or two out from playing now, Keegan. He could have probably hung on and been number 30 on the panel, and, you know, it's
possibly
just,
so, but I just think, like, he's still, like, he's one of Gaelic football's great halfbacks. Like, he was an unbelievable footballer. He could do it all. Like, he could man mark. He obviously scored. He was a phenomenal player. And I just think that, you know, Jack Coyne in his speech sort of talked about it being for, you know, the group of footballers and the people of Mayo, like, and it was just, I just think that does the medal change what Lee Keegan gave to Mayo football? Does it make him any less than the players that won All Ireland yesterday? It doesn't, you know. But
Everyone knows that. I mean, Kieran McGeeney said that in his speech in 2002. He referenced some of the guys that he'd played with in the 90s that had helped him along, and, you know, had done so much for Armagh. Peter Canavan did similar, you know, and they mean it, they know it, that there's men deserve an All-Ireland medal just as much as the guys that are there.
you see it all the
on
time.
day.
Like, people who just happen to. Well, I suppose for Mayo it's different at 75 years, but there's a lot of people who fall between the cracks of winning teams who are brilliant players but don't get the medals that their career would have gotten at other times or would have deserved. So, like, you know, Lee Keegan would have been on that Mayo team yesterday for sure if he'd been
One of
of
the
age.
one of the best moments for me yesterday, and one of the biggest roars apart from during the game, was when Aidan O'Shea lifted the cup. And if Mayo were unfairly criticised, Aidan O'Shea was the personification of that.
He was
The
a lightning
abuse
rod for a lot of
and
that.
the crap that guy had to listen to. Some finals he didn't play well. Some big games he didn't play well, but a lot of them he did. And a lot
But
of
how many finals did he get them to?
Yeah.
You know, in the first place.
yeah.
So
And the only thing is, again, it says so much about Andy Moran as a manager. He maybe could have thrown Aidan O'Shea on there for a minute, but the game was in the melting pot, and he was utterly professional as a manager and doing the right thing to go to win this Sam Maguire.
Well,
But Aidan O'Shea absolutely deserves that
even
medal.
before that, he said, I think it was actually Colin Boyle was on the radio, whatever, leaving Stephen Cohen out of the 26 as well because he just was not the 100% fit. And again, that's another emotional thing. And Andy Moran and Colin Boyle, those guys on those the panel
Killian
they've
O'Connor
played
as
with,
well, yeah.
they've played with, and Killy O'Connor came into
Not
the
in the
panel this year.
26, like,
yeah, not in the 20. No, it's look, I mean, yeah,
and they're big
call.
they're bigger calls for Andy Moran than they would be for a lot of managers because he played with them.
Absolutely.
You know, because he was their teammate, and I think that they went a certain way up until a point of the year, and then the Roscommon game happened, and he sort of changed the profile, and he went definitely more for pace, and a couple of boys came out of the team, including Aidan O'Shea, and I just think that was kind of the moment when he became Andy Moran, the Mayo manager, as opposed to Andy Moran, the former teammate of players, and I think that Mayo sort of changed as a team then from there on. They had the energy, and like, I just think that we're talking about Ryan O'Donoghue. I just think in so many of the games down the years, it was Aidan O'Shea who set the tone for the tackling. He did so much work off the ball and stuff that he never got enough credit for. But yesterday, you know, they didn't get over the line in those games in 16 and 17 and 12 and whatever else, and 21. They just probably didn't have the quality and attack that they have now. And also, ironically, because we've been talking so much about how the new game suits Kerry, but with a couple of players that Mayo have found this year, it now really suits them for it to be an expansive open game. And they've always wanted that from a style point of view and from a defensive point of view as well. They like going after teams. And like I have to say, you know, I thought in the first half, I thought Owen McGreal was superb on Paddy Clifford. And wasn't a matchup that I anticipated.
I thought Hessian was going to go
well,
on him. Yeah.
I thought Hessian was going to go. And again, like, brilliant from Andy Moran and from Mayo that Hessian was leading so much of the Mayo attack.
Yeah.
He wasn't tied up worrying about Paddy Clifford. He went and ran the game for Mayo, and that worked so effectively. Donald McHugh did really well on Clifford. Now Dylan Gainey's knock, definitely, he took a knock early on, it definitely impacted him. And Jack Coyne was comfortable enough in that battle, but like McBrien was phenomenal. Like you could
first ever point and first ever score in championship.
Well, not first. He had a couple of goals, but he had never
that's
scored
right,
a point
yeah,
before. He never scored a point, and but it was just his interception and then his run for the goal. But I mean, you literally almost can go through them one by one. Like Tui and Kearney in the middle of the field, the work that they did in the air. Like Tui, I referenced it, I think, in the ratings. Tui, he had a kick out on top of him, and he was on his own against Mark O'Shea, Sean O'Brien and Shawnee O'Shea. The three of them surround him, and he broke it and won his own break.
Yeah.
And it was just, you know, like the work, and then Jordan Flynn and the work that he did on it. And it was just,
he was incredible.
They won so much break ball as well, man. That was the thing too. Like, it wasn't about winning kickouts. It was more about having the numbers around there to pick up those ones, and every time they emerged with the ball, it gave the crowd another lift because it's like hands on the ball, the possession,
and you're breaking down one of Kerry's big strengths.
Absolutely,
that's there's as much in the psychology of what those kick out ones means.
They all
good at them.
Mayo just worked like dogs. I mean, Tui there was in a dual role because a lot of the time he was in the centre forward position against Breen and sort of keeping Mike Breen back a bit, occupied. But sorry, it's completely gone out of my head there. What I was going to say something, but I just want to go back though. It'll come to me. But about the occasion, and we've mentioned Jack Coyne there a couple of times, and then another man that we haven't mentioned who Jack Coyne did in his speech, Keith Higgins, in the same club, Ballyhonus, and again one of the great defenders who got a bit ridiculed at times, because he didn't win a medal. Brilliant player, but Jack Coyne's speech is up there. It's iconic, and I'll say this, and I'm excuse me, I'm not being sexist here. Overheard a woman in the office who would say herself she didn't really be into sport or watch it much, but I overheard her as I walked through and she was talking about that speech.
Yeah.
And she said at the end of it, I was going to be going out and shouting freedom. It was a brilliant speech. It was summed everything up, and my only regret, if I'd been a script writer, he should have finished up by going, F the curse. But his speech was no, he didn't have to say the bad word. Just, but his speech was superb. And it was just.
How many
one of
Mayo
those that
captains have speeches tucked in their socks that never saw the light of day over the years? Do you know what I mean?
Collector's items. They big collector's items.
Oh, absolutely. So it's like the astronauts go to the moon and they write one speech for the president if they come back and they write one if they don't. It's kind of like, but the speech that's never given. Yeah. And I think that's what Jack Coyne was specific. That this is for everything. This is for everybody. And even Andy, to touch on it, we saw the 2001 Galway team, the Jubilee team yesterday, and they presented before the match, and obviously got the last Connacht team to actually win the All-Ireland 25 years ago. Never mind Galway, or a little bit of, I think it was probably a little bit of light ribbon from the Mayo fans when the Galway team came on, but there's obviously a lot of emotion around Paul Clancy not being in that team, who sadly passed away a few months ago, but also the manager of that team, John O'Mahony, who Andy Moran referenced in his post-match interview. How much of an inspiration was Jono, as they call him, for Andy Moran?
Well, he obviously was, because when the game was sort of going right in the sort of melting pot, the 69th minute, he looked up to the heavens. Andy Moran, he said, and to him and to his wife's cousin who had passed away last year, and he said, lads, if there's anything you can do for us, we'll take it now, and I think obviously that would emerge people all around the country saying prayers, and and calling on the gods for whatever. But luck that they got. But obviously, yeah, John O'Mahony was a legend in Mayo, and obviously he managed Galway as well to greater success. But he'll be
Leitrim as well. Was it Leitrim?
Connacht title,
It's a quirk of a Mayo man, but couldn't get Mayo over the line, but obviously got Galway over the line.
He's very nearly Roscommon. He's born in the last house in Mayo.
Yeah.
Before you go into Roscommon. So
it's when Andy Moran referenced that on his interview in RT as well about him. He's effectively like a
Roscommon
Mayo. I saw, but he said we were driving to the match the other day, and there was there was Mayo flags in Roscommon houses and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I see that when Armagh in All-Ireland finals in Newry, there's a lot of Armagh flags in down houses,
it's sort of spreading that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've remembered what I was going to say there about the Mayo players' attitude, and you were talking there about Jordan Flynn, and I noted it. He had a wide in the first half, and I think another one in the second half. And there were maybe scores he should have got, but both times, I think the first time he caught the ball from the Kerry kick out, and the second one he rose up and broke it to a teammate, and it was just that, okay, I haven't done what I wanted to do, but I'm gonna redeem myself here. And then even the attitude he showed after he batted or slapped the ball against the crossbar where he could have got a goal.
Yeah.
Like he was just what I wrote it like he was a warrior, and he exemplified Mayo's attitude yesterday. Just like do everything you can, and if something goes wrong, don't drop the head. Just next ball, and win it. And that's he was just superb.
Cahair, for all that, and for the work rate of Mayo and the way they hauled themselves back into it and got into the lead and all that, it was sort of in the melting pot in the last 5, 6, 7 minutes, and a big part of that was the Cliffords, that one that David, the 2 point that David scored coming off is just sort of almost falling away from the goal, and I thought Seanie O'Shea's work rate in that second half was ferocious too. We sort of referenced it. We've referenced it almost every week as Kerry's injuries, and Kerry aren't quite at full. But I mean, that was a Kerry team, maybe not at full pelt, but it was, and effectively it was a 2 point game because Mayo got that pointed right to the very last touch. So you're down to a 1-score game in a final. So Kerry, whilst obviously they didn't win it, and it's been a difficult year for them, probably in many respects, they're obviously going to be a team to beat in the next couple of years anyway, with the players that they have and with the system, with the way that they play.
And the under-20s coming through.
Of course. We've said, when Clifford and O'Shea and these boys, when they reached their peak years, Kerry, wouldn't matter what the rules were, wouldn't matter what the game looked like, Kerry were going to win All-Irelands. They're going to win more All-Irelands before those boys retire. How many, we don't know. And it seems scant reward for those two in particular to be at this stage of their career, and as Kerry players and as the team that they've had to only have 2 All-Irelands seems a bit mad, but the signs were, looking back now, the signs were probably there in terms of their performances against Tyrone and Dublin. They weren't, and I think we were expecting the performance from them, and I think they were expecting and I go back to crediting just how ballsy Mayo were in terms of their approach to it then, because I think if they had sat off and allowed Kerry to feel their way through it, I have no doubt Kerry would have won that game, absolutely no doubt. And it was just Mayo, and look, I say at 1-5 to a point down, I'm not saying I was never questioning whether it was the right thing to do, because I felt to win the game it was the right thing to do. If they had any chance, that was what they had to do. But they were taking a massive chance by doing it, and at 7 points down, the size of that chance was being reflected. It was like, this is what can happen if it doesn't go right. But when it started to go right, then it became something that flipped the game, and it flipped. Kerry just couldn't get out. The two pointers. Two pointers.
It's such a massive.
But even at that, as you said, do you think Andy Moran looked at last year's final and how sort of...
Oh, they looked at last year's final. I'll tell you how... Do
you think Andy Moran watched it as much as you did?
Well, I'll tell you how I know they looked at last year's final. You knew on the throw-in they looked at last year's final because they had laser on Gavin White. And like the way Gavin White had crashed the break in the first minute of the All-Ireland final last year and went on or set up the point. Like they were not letting Gavin White win the break.
But yet, who did get the opener for Kerry?
I was Dylan Guinea last year. White set him up. White carried
Who
it.
got it for this year?
This year.
Dylan Casey, the number 4.
Dylan Casey, Dylan Casey. Yeah.
They still to get a forward. I was just saying, I could see that. Oh, right, it was Gavin White last year.
Yes.
Well, here's Dylan Casey this year.
Aye.
You know what I mean? I was thinking that's one of the reasons I was thinking. Right, they've caught them on the hop here.
And look, there were definitely things like they did, as I think predicted a couple of times last week. They did go after Dylan Casey on the traps. Like they did. They made real work of sort of going after him in possession and making him the target of turnovers and stuff, and they had real joy off that. And playing into Hill first, and the things that they wanted to go right for them and needed to go right for them went right from about the 15th minute on. And that spell between there and half time, getting themselves level against the Breeze, it was just like, it felt like. And it had, look at all Irelands have sat there for Mayo in the past in terms of the positions that they've been in finals. They've had half a hand on the cup, but it felt at half time yesterday like they had a hand and a couple of fingertips on it, and it was like all they had to do was keep doing what they were doing. And now look, the other side of that was the energy to do that, because that was tough going to do that for 70 minutes the way they did it. And could they sustain that? But they did.
Yeah. Just on Kerry, and there will always be an inquest in Kerry when they don't win the All-Ireland. But that my new pal, Dennis McCrohan, that I met at the quarter-final, he came and spoke to me just before the match, and I asked him, how do you feel? And he said something along the lines of, well, if they don't win it, they'll be asked, why are you not home with a cup? And those questions will be asked. And I think one of the things, Jack O'Connor is obviously a brilliant manager, one of the all-time greats, but I was very surprised that Tom O'Sullivan started that final. I think it was the one change from last year's starting lineup, because Tom didn't start it. So there was a lot of familiarity there with Kerry, but Tom O'Sullivan, brilliant player, and we all know that, but he hasn't played this year. He's come back from injury, so that was a huge call. And it didn't really work out. He got 1 point, but he missed a couple that you would have expected him to get. I felt that was just a strange call on it. And just the way it went on with Kerry, they didn't get a pile off their bench. And without the two Cliffords, who were real leaders and warriors for them, and scored so much between them and created so much between them, without them, Mayo people would have been celebrating from the last 10 minutes,
But in fairness to Kerry, that they have been, ravaged with injuries all year. One thing, I think there will be an inquest in Kerry is that their club system, because they basically play 2 championships, don't they?
Three.
I mean,
Yeah,
3 championships. They have the clubs, and then the whole divisional championship as well. So Jack O'Connor, and always been talking about that. He thinks they're flogged to death down there. Now, it was once sort of vaunted as one of the strengths of Kerry football that they played so much club, but I think nowadays maybe sort of time is caught up on it.
It's careful what you wish for too, because when the players aren't playing any club league football, and you start to remove club championship games from their schedule, you not only break the link between the players and their clubs, you also break a wee bit the generation coming behind. What's going to produce the next generation. And I get the selfish, and I've said it repeatedly here, it's one of the reasons, or the single reason why I believe Tyrone are so competitive over such a long period of time, is the club's insistence on players playing for the club as often as more often than in any other county in Ireland. They play more league football, and then they play their knockout championship, and I do firmly believe that is why Tyrone are where they are all the time. And I think that I can understand the point of him looking and saying, I want the players saved, but there's a happy medium, and you can go too far the other way and you really weaken your club game. And when you weaken your club game, you have to think about the next 10 years after this. After this team's gone,
yes.
Where's your next team?
But 100% what you're saying about Tyrone, but Tyrone don't play only play one championship. Yes, and it's fiercely competitive.
But they play 7 or 8 league games.
Aye,
And Kerry don't play any, so it's the same number of games.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean? It's roughly the same number of club games you're playing.
But
And
league-
the Tyrone League,
league is league
but
and
no, not in
championship
Tyrone.
is
No.
championship.
Go and watch some of the Tyrone League
Aye, but
games.
it's still like championships another level.
Yeah,
I would
and
say I would hazard a
Wait,
guess. There's a
wait.
lot of the Tyrone League games are more competitive and more thick than some of the Kerry Championship games.
100%. But he was just pointing to the number of injuries which they had, and he felt some of these guys were undercooked yesterday. Now, obviously, they lost Graham O'Sullivan during the week, didn't they? Or not?
Dermot O'Connor.
Yeah,
Dermot
O'Connor, sure, to a hamstring.
And that was a big loss.
Yeah.
Because they never had the kick out on the other side yesterday. They've gone to all year. They never had it, and that was a big factor in the game too. And the Mayo, it was one less thing for them to worry about. Kerry's kickouts were much more predictable, and Mayo
I thought they
actually
were quite slow getting them away at times as well, you know.
Mayo
Yeah.
good joy on them. Mayo were right up tight on them. They didn't allow the short away. And then when they forced it long, Kerry didn't have the kind of dual option, if you like, and they were trying to force ways out. And then you had Jordan Flynn and Tui and Jack Carney really, attacking the ball hard. And,
Paul,
and
can I
making
just
it come down.
suggest at this point when Cahair is starting to talk about kickouts, it's maybe a good time to wind things up. We'll be here to
I was
Wednesday.
about to ask him about Shane Murphy's first All-Ireland final, and somebody, he didn't do too badly, but he was, as you said, he'd not a lot to hit. But yeah, it's there will be inquests all winter, and when Kerry don't win the All Ireland, it's obviously there'll be inquests all winter and stuff like that. But then you have to reference it. Mayo have a very healthy club scene as well. Mayo clubs are always in thereabouts at the tail end of provincial and All Ireland championships. So we're and very good underage success sporadically anyway. But so there's it does bear fruit. Well, before we sort of wrap up the championship and the All Ireland final and all sorts of things, there's been another very hotly contested championship going on as well simultaneously. So there's the Monday Club Fantasy League championship competition going on. So we have now the final tallies and just
Can I just say at this
yes.
point, I tried 4 times on my phone and my laptop to get signed up and couldn't. So it wasn't that I had.
Don't be blaming the
It was only a
website.
tenner, Kenny. Like,
I would have given. I couldn't do it.
Don't be blaming
And
the
it was
website.
yeah, well, you have to answer to your home people in Dungannon. You can do that, But look,
I have a wee prize here.
yes, a wee prize for we'll go through it anyway. Well,
You could make it right, but
a big congratulations to Darren Malloy of Monaghan Harps, whose team name Hoof It Long kind of came to bird. If you've got Bobby McCall up on the edge of the square, you will be hoofing it long. But and we wish Bobby well in his recovery. But Darren Malloy with a whopping 212 points last week tops the Monday Club's mini
Give him a
league.
round of applause, shouldn't I?
1644 of a final score, Darren, and
see
that's
Monaghan do well.
200. It's more than 200 points ahead of second place, so that's good going. Now, our sort of
Reverse order.
Internal league, I go from the bottom up.
Well,
They go we'll have to go from the bottom up.
Just add the caveat that I had similar technical
Well, who's at the
difficulties
bottom?
I made a raft of substitutions before.
Excusing read out
read
It sounds-
You want me to read it out?
It sounds like a workman who's about to have a new tool.
Yeah.
To blame.
Yes, the wooden spoon is going to yours truly. Had to
you
change
clap
that.
for that?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Karen. Sort of tailed off there, much like my beloved Red and Blacks. We sort of tailed off in the championship there after a couple of good weeks. But look, as I said, those changes never went through. I got really excited when Ryan O'Donoghue scored a goal in the quarter final, and then realised I'd forgotten to put him in the team, so that was good. Number 4, well, you should mention actually Neil's obviously not here because he's covering the Commonwealth Games for us in Glasgow. But Neil's in 4th place with 1172 points. So I mean, I didn't even manage to get the 4 figures. So that's what thanks. Soupy obviously living it up in Ibiza for last week. So Soupy is 3rd. Okay, 1232, and just 33 points ahead of him is our very own Cahair O'Kane.
What?
Yes.
Le Moi.
1265, but way out in front. 1303 total points.
Oh, man. Something, man.
A point's a good score is the name of the team.
Yeah.
It's points spelled
1303 is a better one.
2 points.
from the Redmond O'Hanlon Club in the county of Armagh. It's Mr. Andrew
Sure,
Waters, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Wow.
Andy,
Proud moment.
so these, when are you going to do in your coaching seminars, your management seminars, and tell people it's
Book it online.
You need to thank
Just waiting for the.
thank Sharon and the kids for their support there.
Cheers. There was a.
You know, speech.
There was a prize for the last.
Well, actually, I don't have a surprise.
Oh,
There's your there you go. Have a
Thank you
ball.
so
Just
much.
ball, yeah. We'll just have
you bring a pump in.
we'll just have the marketing department fork out for another O'Neill's ball then while we're at it. Yes, guys, just a little bit of housekeeping to get through towards the end of it. If you've loved all the, obviously we're sort of winding down. We'll have another sort of podcast later in the week, just writing up all the championship, review your highs and lows and things to look out for. But we will be taking a wee break after that for a couple of weeks. Just to say a big thank you to everybody who's tuned in, listened, downloaded, watched, whatever, over the few months of the Monday Club podcast. If you like the Irish News GA content, and like, why wouldn't you? Like, come on. We have a special offer for listeners of the Monday Club podcast for a half price subscription for 2 months. So if you can enjoy full digital access to all the great sport and GA content on the Irish News for just £7.49 a month for the next 2 months. I mean, if you can access the content that we've had building up to the All-Ireland final, great in-depth squad profiles by Kenny and
I feel like the Mayo
Cahair.
squad are my personal friends now. So.
A great piece from Andy on Rannu O'Donoghue's County Down.
Yes.
Links. How did we miss
That's
that
where he
one?
gets it,
How did
yeah.
we not get him in red and black, for God's sake?
How did he end up winning?
Yeah, in the final in Croke Park. Yeah, and
Well,
obviously
his cousin did as well.
yeah, and a timeless piece by Andy. Everybody knows Cahair, everybody knows about all the finals that Mayo have lost in the last 10 or 20 years, but they won a few in the first half of the 20th century. So that piece from Cahair is well worth a read, and you can get full access to that for $7.49 for 2 months, and you just visit www.irishnews.com/subscribe-Monday Club, and there's no space between Monday Club, and I'm informed that is a hyphen, not a dash. Subscribe-Monday Club, all that. So look, log on to that. And read away, and obviously there's great coverage of yesterday's final and great coverage in the next few days to come. And again, we're indebted to our sponsor, Fight Insurance NI, your local commercial insurance broker. Got that one off. Thanks very much for your support throughout the whole season. Again, look out for our championship special coming later in the week. Thanks very much for listening, downloading, subscribe everywhere, the whole thing. Leave a few comments, because Soupy loves comments, doesn't he?
He does. He loves reading the comments,
That's where he
yeah.
goes first time, you know. Thanks once again to Andy Waters, to Cahair O'Kane, and to Kenny Archer. He's going to go and remove his press his press wristband, and
it's ebay.co.uk.
oh yeah. So for that one,
What you looking?
a little piece of Mayo memorabilia. Let's hope it's not
I threw
another
mine in the bin. I'll give you
75
20p.
years before they win another one. But thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll see you later.